Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 186 at scavengerlife.com.
And today we are...
What the hell was that?
Oh, I always feel like I need to have some kind of spiel, like radio people. But,
okay, we're not radio people. We're just regular people who record ourselves every week.
It is Sunday
Yes.
afternoon. We've had a lovely morning.
We ate some waffles.
We have a very good week, which we will break down for you. But I must admit, I have been sleeping all week. I have been sleeping...
I like that. You've been sleeping all week.
I've been sleeping until about 10 o'clock every single day. Like, ever since we came back from Colombia, I feel like I just cannot get out of bed.
Well, the other thing, too, is we stay up pretty late.
Yeah.
And we stay up past midnight lately.
Right.
So that's kind of...
But I don't say that to be it's myself up or it's not a bad thing. It's just like this is what this lifestyle has afforded me.
Yeah.
I've just been sleeping a lot. Maybe it's just because it's like the end of winter time and my body is just was something. Yeah. It's just nice though. I'm able to do that. And Ryan, I feel like you've been doing most of the work this week.
Wow, I'll totally take credit for that.
Which has been very, very nice.
Well, we had a bunch of auctions end. We had been doing some artwork auctions, and man, auctions are crazy because you have a lot of packing to do right away. Because if people pay right away, which they did, you're like, oh.
Right, so if you have like 20 auctions up and, you know, half of them are more sell, then suddenly each you have to pack all those at the same time.
Right.
We're actually going to talk about that some.
We'll talk about that later. But that was
because we don't do auctions, but we always break our own rules, so we'll talk about that.
But that was a lot of the work that I was doing.
But I guess my point is it's very nice having a partner to work with.
Yeah.
You know, because I was taking pictures all week and I've been doing these piles of artwork, and sometimes I get into this mode where there's certain things I just feel like I don't want to take pictures of.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of this artwork, and then you helped me that one day.
Yeah,
which is nice.
Basically, I took photos and then handed it off to you, and you wrote the titles, the descriptions, and the measurements.
Because I totally get it when I hear people kind of talk about this, where they're like, I had this stuff in my house. Like, it's ready to go.
Yeah,
you know,
I can't do it.
I've got it separated by subject topic, and I just can't do it because I know that feeling. You're just like, you aren't excited about it, or it seems overwhelming.
But I think that the good thing is that I find when that happens is either there's two things. You can go do something else because there's always stuff to do.
True.
There's always other stuff to do. Yeah. You can list stuff, whatever. You can pack the stuff that's sold during the day, whatever. Or you can just do it, and then it's really not that bad. You're like taking photos. You know, I was avoiding this too. I was like, I don't want to touch this stuff. I don't want to look at it. I just want to sell it and be done.
Right.
But I was taking photos of it, and I was like, oh, that's not that bad. Yeah. Like, once you get through it, and then knowing that you don't have to do the other half of it.
Right, especially because we split the work up. But I think that's my question to you. Do you think you could do all this by it yourself?
No.
Like, could you run? Because there's a lot of people who are on the blog and they comment and they send up emails, and it seems like there's a lot of people that do this by themselves.
Yeah.
And they ask us for advice, and really, it's kind of a little different. I mean, you know, like what we do is we can kind of keep each other honest and help each other
and pass work off to each other.
You know, there are some weeks where you are a little slower and I'm much more like I've got a lot of stuff going on and I'm the one pushing things, and then like this week I'm kind of the lazier one and you're pushing things forward. People who work by themselves, it's
tough.
It's really incredible. You know?
I don't think I couldn't do it. I just think the pace and the level of productivity would be different. Right. I mean, I just think it would be, you know, just a lot different.
I mean, I think the other thing that's very important for me to make all this interesting is, you know, having you as a partner in this is when like something sells. Yeah. And we can talk about it. Right. And we can kind of like, I know this sounds so silly, but it's a big part of our life. We kind of live the experience all over again. You know?
Well,
we will talk about like where we got it and what we thought about when we saw it, because it's part of being a scavenger. You know.
Well, and like you can relive the pricing of it too. For me, I'm just like, I can't believe that sold for that much.
Right.
Like,
and we
which
have
is
some
kind of funny.
And we have some of those stories. It's this week. Or, the other excitement is like when we go scavenging. I could do it by it's myself for sure, but it's nice to have you there, and we're like looking at stuff together and being excited about stuff together. And we have another good story about that this week.
I think it's funny too when you're scavenging with another person. It's really funny how someone else's opinion can sway the decision to buy something or not. Right. I mean, there are times where I'm like, I'm buying this, I don't care, I want it, it's cool. Same with you. I mean, that happens all the time. But when there's like kind of a bigger purchase and you're like, is this really tacky and ugly and horrible, or is it like kind of amazing? Right. And you're trying to gauge it with the other person, like, I can't tell if this is like a really good, amazing deal or we're overpaying, Yeah. So having a partner in that respect, I think, is really helpful.
Or sometimes I see something I think is cool, but I'm not that excited about it. And I'll show you and you'll be like, I'm excited about that.
Right. Or I'm like, oh, God, no,
Right.
Like, so I think that's helpful, too.
Yeah. So, those people who work alone, our hats are off to you because we know that that's a lot.
It's a lot of work.
Although, I think her name's Kimberly. She has a blog, and she's been blogging about how, she has her own eBay store, and she's kind of pulled her husband into kind of helping her.
Oh, yeah.
And they've been starting to go to auctions.
Yes.
Kind of because I think, to toot our own horn, we were talking about going to auctions as kind of like a date night.
Yeah, it's kind of like a fun thing.
She started to bring her husband in, and it sounds like her husband has started to get kind of excited about, like, it's, going to a thrift store. I can see why maybe it's not so exciting.
It's more passive.
An auction is more action-oriented.
Very active.
There's, like, personalities.
It's a whole thing. It's like going to the circus or something.
I can definitely see why men would really like it because it is a lot about
aggressive.
Ego and being aggressive
totally.
and like
totally
playing mind games with people and like and that's why I can imagine why some ladies kind of don't like to go by themselves because it can be intimidating because people are talking fast and like numbers are going.
People are really aggressive. Men and women are aggressive.
Yeah.
Like other buyers can be aggressive.
I mean, and let me say this is not a men's world. I mean, some of the auctions we go to, some of the most aggressive buyers are ladies, and
there's
they're
this one woman at this one auction.
She's one of her.
She's my nemesis, man, because she runs an antique store right underneath the auction house. She'll just bump into you and she'll elbow you.
She's got
and,
no sense of personal space or be nice. It's just
we're just like, I so want to bid her up even if I don't get it. Right. So anyway, there are personalities
but
like
that's an example of those people that work by themselves. I always it's wonder if there's a way for them to, if they have a partner in their life, if they can pull them in to kind of start getting involved somehow, because it really does.
It makes a difference.
Really is kind of a game changer, It makes
it's huge. It's more fun
easier.
Too.
Yeah.
If I was just doing this by myself and I was like, Jay, look at what I sold, and if you were like, oh, that's whatever.
I mean, the other thing about having us doing this together is not only the scavenging and the work we're talking about, but then because we do this, we get benefits from it. We get money, we get time, and then we get to enjoy together traveling. That's something we like doing.
Yeah, when we were on one of our video jobs a few months ago, I met this guy who was doing another part of the production, and he was like, oh, I wish that I could travel with my wife. I wish that she did tech stuff like this.
Right.
And he's like, you guys are so lucky. And it was so funny because we totally take it for granted sometimes. We're like, oh, we have another job, but it's so cool that we get to go together,
It is cool.
Yeah. Except when we're on each other's nerves, which happens a couple times this week.
I always say this. I always like fighting because, and we've said this
we do it a lot,
before, just because you're just getting things out. It's different if you're holding things in and having It's resentments, like long-standing. Right. It's resentments, or like my parents who they never talked about anything, so they always hated each other. It's
well, it's not, and I wouldn't even call it fighting. I would call it bickering. Yeah, like you're just kind of like both people are being like, I think this. No, I think this. Well, I'm right. No, I'm right.
The only thing I don't like to do, and it's a big pet peeve of mine, is arguing in public. I do not like that.
See, that does not bother me
at all. I know it doesn't, and that's not.
I know. I try not to.
I do not like that.
I know. I don't want to be those people either.
Okay, so let's talk about the numbers. It's this week, and then that will kind of give us the foundation to talk about other topics this week.
Yes.
So we had another good week. Even though I was sleeping till 10 o'clock every day.
You still got a lot of work done.
We made a little bit more than we did it last week. So our total sales was $2,300.
Yay, thank God.
Which is good. And like I always say, so $300 a day, 7 days a week is $2,100. So we were making a little more than over $300 a day. And that's amazing. You know?
Really good. So you said cost of items sold $520.
So that's a difference this week, though. So like Ryan said, we started selling some art. And, those of you that have heard us for a long time, we hate consignment, and yet we break our own rules. And so we've been doing consignment for this gentleman in California. We brought home 15 huge boxes of artwork, and we're slowly working our way through it. And so I include that in the cost of items sold. We basically split the profit with him. So if something sells for $100, he gets $50 and we get it's $50. Well, actually, it's less.
It's less after fees.
It's $50 after fees.
Right.
So that's why our cost of items sold this week was $520.
I see. That's a good calculation.
Because a lot of stuff we sold was this artwork that we had to split with him.
Right. So that's like a consignment payment, basically.
And we'll talk about that in a bit, because I have, I like to break down my growing ideas of consignment. So we sold 55 items, which is about what we sold last week.
It's a good amount. I like that amount.
So our highest price of our own piece was we sold a jacket. We sold this, and this is a great story.
Yep.
We were at a thrift store, and someone had just brought in some stuff to donate, and there was like an oil skin, like
duster.
A duster, like a Western jacket.
It's a cowboy jacket. It looks like a trench coat. Some of you know what it is, but
it was made in Australia, but it was all like balled up into a ball. It just looked like junk. And I grabbed it and said, "Can I buy this?" And they said, "Sure, it's no problem." And we probably got it for like $1. And then I brought it home.
Because it looked like trash.
Right. But then I brought it home, and it's just like Australian oil duster.
Yeah.
It's a little beat up, but that's the look of those things.
I actually washed it.
Yeah.
They said, just wipe it down with a wet cloth. So I just put it on delicate.
With it's no
detergent or anything.
And so it came out good. And, it looks like a... steampunk. Everyone uses that word, but it just looks like, a guy that's a Burning Man.
Yeah.
And so we sold that for $175.
To someone in the global shipping program in the UK.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that was one of those sales where you look at your phone and you're like, oh my God, they bought it for full price. They didn't even offer us any money.
It just makes our whole day.
It's just like, nice.
So our average price sold was about $42. So that seems to be our new average. Like it was $30 back in the day, and now we're up to about $40 now.
Good.
We'd love to bump that up, but it seems like I feel like something has to happen, like a big change has to happen for us to really make a jump from $40. Just because we would have to be scavenging like a whole different kind of item.
Yeah.
I've said this again and again. In this country, in America, people seem willing to just throw away items that cost about $30 or $40.
$30 to $50, basically. Because it's not worth it for them to, like, sell it on eBay.
They know it's worth something, but it's not worth enough for them to put the energy into doing something about it. So they just give it away or put it on the street. Once you start getting it for things over $50, $100, people know it's worth that much, so they're willing to put it on Craigslist or
eBay
or give it to a friend. They're less willing to just give it away.
Right. Although we do find those things. People do.
We find them on a regular basis, and we'll talk about one of those things we found. It's this week, but it's just less. We couldn't do 100% of our store on items over $50 just because we can't find that. It's many of them.
We find more things that are less.
And then, we only spent, about $100 this week. And then the other thing is, this is a controversial number I shared last week.
Controversial. Yeah, somebody called you on it. They were like, no, it's actually less.
So someone asked me what our number of items that we have been listing every week. So this week is 79 items. Okay. And so it's last week, someone was kind of backdating his numbers and said that I was wrong. Like I say, a lot of these numbers are kind of fuzzy just a bit because I'm going through and grabbing stuff. But the way I do it is I just look at our store and I search from, the stuff that was the most is recently put up, and you can just go by date. And so I just start from March 1st, gotcha. And I just count up. So we listed 79 items.
Oh, cool.
Which is good, So that's amazing, So you did that all on your own. I mean, if you think 20 items a day, 5 days a week, that's 100. So you almost did 20 items a day.
Yeah, I was pretty dedicated.
And so that's when people say, they have a small store. I mean, you can add up to 100 items a week if you really put in full-time effort.
If you have a partner to take the photos.
True.
Also, that's helpful.
So, we had the benefit now, since we've been doing this podcast for a couple of years now, that we have numbers from past years to kind of compare to, which is kind of interesting. So last year, this same week, we only sold $1,500.
Wow.
So that's different. And, I don't really know how good these numbers are or how interesting they are, but it's interesting for us just to kind of get a sense of, kind of more or less, we actually have 500 items more in our store now than we did a year ago.
Wow.
So we've been able to continue to sell every week as much as we can.
Bump the numbers
and
up.
Keep bumping our store up. You know? And like we always say, I mean, adding more to our store doesn't mean that we make exponentially more income.
I wish that was true.
I wish it was. Having more items in our store just means that we have more of a pillow between us and, being bankrupt because, if I decided to maybe sleep for a month straight and not do anything, we would still have sales because we have enough items in our store to handle that.
Right. So because we were doing the numbers from a year ago, I just checked to see when we actually started the blog, and it was 2 years ago this week.
Yeah.
So this basically is our 2-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Wow,
it's
cool.
Awesome,
2 years. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. And and it's kind of amazing too. I mean, every week I think there's only 1 week during those 3 years
where we couldn't post something.
Didn't post an episode.
That's pretty impressive. Yeah. I think that's what's cool about a podcast though, is that even when you're traveling, you can do a recording because it's an audio recording, so it makes it very portable.
But, we try and do the podcast like we do our store. Yeah. These things aren't super produced or, they aren't complicated, but we just try and be consistent about it.
Yes.
And that's the thing, I think it's with anything. It doesn't need to be fancy.
Right.
It just needs to be consistent, it's whether it be your eBay store, this podcast, it's whatever that you do in your life. You can even go on our blog at scavengerlife.com, and on the sidebar on the right-hand side, kind of down below, you can see our past episodes. It breaks it down by the calendar. It's month, so you can actually look and just see what our numbers were a year ago. So if that's interesting to you, and maybe just check out its numbers too, because if you think that you haven't been doing a lot of work, if you've had a store for a while, you might realize that you're selling twice as much as a year ago.
I think that's why the numbers are important, because then you can really see how you've improved. Or, the average price sold, seeing that is really important, because then you can make the goal we want it to be $50, and how can we make that happen?
And, hopefully if you're halfway intelligent, you're making slow improvements. So sometimes it's just having to realize that.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the things we sold. This is always fun. It's like the kind of the scavenger, a brag section, you know.
Well, and what's fun is I get to show this stuff on the video too. So
so normally on Wednesday, Ryanne will post like a 20-minute video where she shows what we sold that week, so you can see the item.
Now I don't do every single item because some things I'm like, this is the most boring thing ever, like another shirt. But if the shirt is cool or funky or sells for a good price, I'll show it. But yeah, so this one thing that we sold, this is the weirdest thing. And what's cool about this sale, too, is I think we bought it at a thrift store last week, and then we photographed it, and for some reason I was doing, you know, like a folder, a very new folder, and it got listed, and then it sold. So it was a really quick turnaround.
And it was just this thing that I saw, and I bought it for $2. It's one of those rare items where we just couldn't really tell what it was.
We guessed what it was.
We guessed what it was.
With the context of what
it's like this metal stand, a small stand that would fit like on a table, and it had little holes on the top. The cool thing about it was on the side it had these like imprints of like people drinking. It was like art
cocktails.
Deco. Yeah, it was like cocktails. So we assumed you would put like swivel sticks in, but the holes were tiny.
They were tiny. So what I think they were is, they were like swivel or swizz. I think they're called swizzle sticks, where you would poke like a cherry or like a cocktail onion or something.
Right. So it would have to be like toothpick size.
Yeah, basically.
But it's just one of those cool, weird little items. Yeah. The kind of thing that we find in like flea markets and stuff. But we put it up, put $40 on it, and
it sold in like a couple days.
Right.
So that I show it on the video too. It's a real, like I pictured it holding like bar tools for like cocktail tools, but usually with those the container is open or the holes would be bigger. So that's why it was like so weird. We're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But that was a fun, weird find.
Strangely, last week we talked about we sold a knife, a kitchen knife, and we talked about this where we find them in a silverware a section that people often just overlook. And we sold 2 more knives last week, and when we sold them to the same guy, he spent $90 on 2 knives. One
was $40 and one was $50 on used knives.
Right, and these are Henckels, so they're good knives. Yeah. But I think you can buy like a whole set for like $120. So I'm just like, but they're kind of specialty knives, kind of chef knives, and that's what people buy them for. So we were psyched,
Yeah, when we looked at those prices, we were like, this guy just spent almost $100 on knives. That's amazing.
We also sold this old vintage. I love these. It's like a Letterman, like a football coat.
Oh, it's the NFL one.
And it was an Eagles, had an Eagles patch on it.
From the 70s. Right. Yeah, but it was a youth jacket, but it fit you. It was like an extra large youth.
It was like, extra large. So it was like a small man's. I could kind of put it on because, I'm not a huge guy. And it was great, though, because it's one of those coats that you find at the thrift store. They often just price them all the same price. So it was like $5. Right. And we sold it for $150.
Yeah, and those are cool because they have like the vintage patch of the team from the
wool
70s.
And leather.
It wasn't leather, it was vinyl.
What?
Yeah, it was vinyl.
Yeah.
But it's just that look. And that sold for $150. Full price, no offer. I was like, I love that, man. $150.
We sold a ice... a bucket, it's like a mid-century ice bucket, like Hollywood Regency.
Oh, so this ice bucket, right? The thing by itself weighed 6 pounds. Wow. Just by itself. I was like, oh my God, this thing's massive.
Because it was chrome and then...
Yeah, no, okay, stop. How about you stop talking and let me talk? Okay, so the thing was silver-plated. So that's not, it's fancy, but it's not like amazing. It was silver plated, but the inside was glass lined with Thermos brand glass. So that's why it was so heavy. And the thing about it is when you pack something like that, it's delicate because it is glass lined. So you really have to bubble wrap it and like make a shell around it and then just pad the hell out of it. So that was a great sale. I think we sold that for $50. Yeah.
40, I think.
40.
But those kind of sales are good because that's the kind of stuff that you find at estate sales.
Yeah.
It's just like an ice bucket. And it's weird. There's, I guess, a whole community of people that like to make drinks with style. So they like to
or
buy
they
those.
Entertain, so they have an ice bucket.
So then the other thing we sold this week, or things we sold, we talked about this, was artwork. So,
yes, on commission.
We do not like to do consignment.
Right.
Or at least we say that. And we made this one exception because we know a guy, our friend James, that sells art.
We did an interview with him about 8 months ago.
And he was moving, and he had all this extra art that he didn't want to deal with. So he's like, why don't you guys come and take it and sell this for me? And, he's very generous, where we split it half and half after expenses. So that's a good deal. But, it's just, it really is a lot of work. And if you think about it, so if you sell something for $100, after expenses, you're really making like $40. But the problem is what happens if stuff is selling for $20?
Right.
So then you're only making like $8, Yeah. So then it becomes like, wait a second, we're like doing the things we tell people not to do, selling like $5 items,
Right.
So that's what we're kind of running into, and why it just reminds us why selling on consignment is basically you're working for somebody else.
Right.
No matter how generous they're going to be,
right.
You're still doing the work for them. The good thing is that we like art. We like learning about it. All this stuff is really interesting. So it's definitely teaching us about it's research, and we're learning about different kinds of illustration and art, and like all the eras of cartoons and advertising art. So we're building our knowledge up by doing this. And there is some stuff that's selling for $300, plus. But again, it's another reason why consignment is a problem for me is because people say, well, but you're getting all this stuff for free, so it's one less thing you have to do. But that's the thing. Finding stuff to sell is not hard. A problem.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's kind of like it's taking out that part of the fun of the scavenging process. Like if we're not finding it ourselves, and we aren't having that kind of fun finding it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough because, and that was my frustration with it was, you are working for someone else, and that is the feeling you have when you're doing this. Although it is a cool product and cool things that are really interesting and historical and things like that. But
yeah, I mean, and so again, we brought home 15 huge boxes of this artwork, and the cool thing is that you'll go through it and you'll find these gems, and you're like super excited, and it sells for $700. We sold one piece, but the problem is for every one of those, there's a big pile of stuff that people want to pay $20 for, $10 for,
exactly.
And so it'd be like it's running like a postcard business where you're just having to take photo.
It's just so many.
So I don't know. I mean, I guess everyone has their own opinion on doing consignment, but that's what we're learning. Yeah, teaching ourselves again.
Right.
Oh, and the other thing is, so we've been selling, because we have so much of this artwork, and we don't want to hold this stuff forever, we've been selling a lot of it on auction, which, again, we
never do.
Tell people not to do, but we're trying to move this stuff and, hope some of it catches fire.
Yeah.
It's interesting about auctions. Here's one reason why I don't like it, too. It takes a lot of mental energy.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you don't want it to, the problem is that it's like 7 days, and I find myself, I'm watching the auction.
Yeah, watching the auction. And when it's ending, like this one day where stuff was ending, I think it was last Monday, I was just sitting there watching them end because I was like trying to see how much they were going for. Is anyone bidding? Are there snipes? It like took up half my day.
Right.
Plus then it was like people were asking questions. Can you combine shipping? one guy, I'll talk about this in our customer issues. One guy was in Canada and we couldn't bump him out of global shipping. It was like this bit. I had to call eBay. It was just like, oh,
and people, we have the thing on the phone, so when someone does a bid,
it'll tell you.
It makes a noise. So like that last day, it's bidding against each other, which is good. But they're bidding like 50 cents more than each other. So it's just like, and then every time someone bids, you go and look at it. So it's really, our whole day was just taken up, just kind of being a part of the auction.
Right, which is cool, but I'd rather be listing stuff.
And that's the other thing, when people talk about, do you care if people are watching your items? We don't care about watchers on our buy it now.
But for auctions, it's different.
It totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always trying to see, are there more watchers? Like, are we going to get more bids?
Right, exactly.
And it just reminds me why I like buy it now, because you list it, you forget it, and then when it sells, it's like a surprise.
Yeah, you're like, oh, cool.
You're like, oh, I forgot about that. Yeah. Like, it's just like someone just gave me some money.
Yeah.
Again, that's what we learned.
Yeah. So our other business, our rental business, we've been getting bookings.
Yeah, so we put it just on a market this past month.
Yeah.
People can book it for April 1st. Yep. So, it's ready to go. And so we had one, it's booking that we had talked about. So we have gotten 2 more people book.
Which is very good.
Right now it seems like people are booking the weekends for April and May. They're planning their springtime. But, it's good. So when someone books it's with us, they're paying $200 a night.
Right.
Which is good. So when people have to book at least 2 nights.
Yeah.
Very often people are booking your 3 or 4 nights.
Right.
So far we've booked 9 nights. So that's $1,800.
That's great.
That's nice.
Yeah. It is. It's like all this work we put into this house. I'm like, oh yeah, now we can make money.
Right.
Like, this is actually like what's supposed to happen now. So, I forgot.
Our goal is to book 100 nights for 2015.
Yeah.
Which would be about $20,000.
Right.
And we've booked 9 nights. So we're about 1/10 of the way there.
What? I love that. No, it's just so good. Funny how you you're like, we're 1/10 away.
Hey, it's like.
No, it's true. It's true.
But, but it does really feel like eBay in a way.
Right.
We've actually only booked, we booked these 9 nights, but we've gotten
several inquiries.
Probably 5 other people have sent us emails asking us questions. Right. So it's just like eBay. We write back right away.
Well, and also with eBay, like a lot of people will ask you questions. They'll never buy it. And then there are people who will ask you questions and then they buy it a month later, right. Or right. they buy it right away. So that's what it seems like with having an Airbnb and VRBO is like, people are like, yeah, I totally want to book this for a week. And we're like, that's so awesome. And they're like, nope, sorry.
Yeah.
You're like, oh no, that sucks.
Yeah, I find myself just remembering what it was like starting our eBay store right. when we hadn't sold a lot of stuff. And so anytime someone wrote in, I felt like I had to make that sale.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the same thing here. I'm like, if someone shows interest in renting our place, some people I've written back 3 times, like, are you sure? Are you interested?
Yeah.
Can I answer any questions?
Yeah.
I mean, and it just reminds me like, oh, I got to chill out. Like,
yeah.
People are emailing 5 different places.
People, yeah.
Like, maybe, it's like you said, maybe they're going to make their choice in a month.
Right, exactly. So I think the key is just like what we know from eBay is you're courteous, you answer any questions, and you're friendly and professional.
And have clear photos.
Clear description.
Yeah, all that stuff.
So yeah, I think we linked to our Airbnb before, but I can link to it again maybe.
Yeah.
Just so people can see. Basically, we're trying to run it just like our eBay business.
Yeah. I mean, it really is exciting for people like all of us just having the internet. I mean, you can run these businesses from home through these websites. Like, we've been thinking, should we have our own website for this rental? I know,
right.
And so people book it just through we kind of like going through a third party.
Yeah, like with eBay.
Yeah. I mean,
they do the advertising basically.
Yeah, I mean, Airbnb they take about 10 it's percent at the end of the day, and it's just like eBay. And you know what? It's worth it. So they handle all the stuff.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, exactly.
We just have to worry about our place,
our house being clean and ready and stocked. Okay, so let's talk about this like really cool find that happened yesterday randomly.
Yeah. So here's a story about us finding something really cool while we're scavenging, and I'm sure we all have these stories where you found something really exciting. So, you know, we were just at a thrift store, and it's one of those really super junky thrift stores. And again, we talk about these. We love these. They're like a little independent thrift stores. These are people that do like house clean outs and just they buy storage lockers. I mean, you know,
and they normally buy way more than they can handle. So they'll just have piles of stuff that they haven't even gone through, and they're happy for you to get rid of it.
Because, you know, 90% of it is total junk. Like stuff that should really just be thrown away. But it's
actual junk.
Someone might like it, so whatever, it's cool. And so Ryan, you're actually in the truck.
So I was in the car because I was on the phone with my sister who I hadn't talked to in a while. So we're like gabbing away, and I get a phone call from Jay because I was like, oh, I'll meet you in there in a couple minutes or whatever. And he's like, you've got to get in here. Like, you've got to come check this stuff out. And I'm like, okay, I'm coming. So I jump out of the car, and they were actually having a bag sale on clothes, which everyone's going to freak out about. Well, what do you have these bag sales? Sometimes thrift stores are so overwhelmed. Yeah, I mean, they're like, fill a bag for $10.
I think it's pretty common. Like, you know, a lot of these thrift stores have a day when they do it. They're trying to move inventory.
Yeah, so we were filling a bag full of clothes. Cool stuff, actually. And there's this Rubbermaid bin full of all this stuff wrapped up in bubble wrap, so you couldn't see any of it. But there was two pieces that were kind of unwrapped. You must have unwrapped them. And they just looked like this like chintzy pottery that like...
It was like hand-painted pottery.
Hand-painted pottery, which to me a lot of times just is from like Filene's or like TJ Maxx. Like you can find that stuff there. So we were like, we don't know. But there was a signature on the back, and it was signed that it was in France. So we were like, okay, this is probably a little bit higher quality than we originally thought.
And it was signed Henry Quimper.
It was Quimper, but it's not Henry. It's Henroy.
Henroy.
But it's not someone's name.
Right.
So
it's not.
It's not Henry. It's like the place where the factory is so whatever. It looks like it's a signature.
This is a good example. In some ways, it looks like we know what we're doing, but this is an example of like,
we got to Wikipedia it. Yeah.
And when I picked it up, you know, it's like right on the edge. Is this like totally stupid grandma pottery that no one cares about, or is this something special? And we could have pulled out the phone, I guess, and done some... But we don't like to start doing that because then people start thinking like...
They need to check the price.
Yeah, and I guess I could have gone in the bathroom to do it, but... This is where we just go by our gut. So we just ask the guy, how much for the whole box, you know?
Right.
I'm going to buy this for... It's my grandma because, I don't know, I always feel like I have to make an excuse why I'm buying, like... stuff like that.
Yeah.
I probably don't have to, but I just do.
Yeah.
And he said $25.
$25. So we were kind of like, okay, let's think. You know, even if it was chintzy stuff from TJ Maxx or whatever, you're going to make $25 back.
If you could just sell the whole thing as a lot
for $50 or whatever.
And we hadn't even undone all the pieces, so we assumed it was all going to be the same stuff.
But also a good indicator of something that's of high quality. This is kind of a weird thing. Someone, whoever they got this from, some storage locker or whatever, had really, really bubble wrapped these. Like, this person, I'm assuming, was a collector. They put it in their storage unit thinking, I'm going to get this someday. And they didn't for whatever reason. But they packed these so well because they were precious to them.
And that's why it's worth going to these kind of junky thrift stores, because this is the kind of place where... What they love is electronics.
Yes.
So when they buy out
CD players,
it's lockers. When you go in their front room, it's all about electronics and phones, games and phones,
Xbox,
because
all
that's
stuff.
What they enjoy. That's what they think is worth something.
That's what they know,
and that stuff is.
Yeah.
And so stuff like this, they're just like, whatever.
It's just chintz. They're just like, whatever.
Okay, so we've already said the name of this company.
Yeah, Quimper.
Quimper. And some France. Of you have already...
They already know what it is.
Are screaming, that's amazing,
yeah, right.
So we come home and we start Googling.
Well, we start unpacking.
Yeah.
And the pieces are old. Like, they look vintage, but some of them look antique, like super old. And they have, this signature, and we're like, oh, this is a serious collection. This is like someone's collection. And it's not like teacups. It's like really weird pieces, like wall pockets. Okay, go look up Quimper wall pockets. Some of them sell for over $200.
This is why also it's good to have a partner, because I can look names up and I'm like, well, this stuff sells for like $100 a piece. But I'm glad that you're a part of this, because you have a lot more passion
you're like,
around
what
this.
The hell is a wall pocket?
You have a lot more passion around this. I'm like, my passion is like how much money we're gonna make. You have the passion of like, you understand why this stuff is cool, And
I think at one point I started freaking out about it, because I was like, okay, there were 27 to 28 pieces altogether. So they sold it to us for less than $1 a piece, and it could possibly be almost $1,000 worth of pottery.
Right. I mean, we don't like to say like that's definitely what we're going to make. I don't like to say
that number, but it's.
But if you do research,
estimate.
People will buy these pieces of pottery for $50
to $200.
Yeah.
So that was definitely.
I think I had this moment, and I'm sure we've all had this, where you're just like, I can't believe this is my life. Like, we're gonna make a lot of money on this, and this is what allows me to sleep till 10 a.m.
It's like
when I want to.
Quimper.
And it's just because we happened to stop on a slow Sunday afternoon. It's just like a.
Some
quiet,
random
little thrift
junky thrift store.
And we were willing to dig. Like, this was kind of
in
a part of the thrift store that people don't go in very often.
It was like in a corner,
like
right?
I said, those are the best places to go to.
Because stuff's hidden, nobody cares, and nobody wants to research it. So
anyway, that's kind of thing where we're going to photograph it on a Monday and put it up right away.
Put it up as fast as possible so that we don't have to store it, because it's all super fragile.
It kind of reminds me of that Valentine kind of pottery that we sold the other day.
The Wasserbacher or whatever.
So,
Yeah, that was like one of those things where you're like, I spent no money on that, and I made a lot of money.
Yeah, like that's the thing about like when you get better at this, and when you read blogs and hear from other people, you start to recognize that there's stuff that a lot of people wouldn't normally pick up.
Right.
But if you've heard about this stuff, then you realize like that's valuable.
Yeah, it's almost like the experience allows you to know what's what, because you're like, oh. That Wasserbach, whatever name, I sold a mug before for a lot of money. So I'm like, always got to get that. Like, you'll always get it. Because it's a winner.
Okay, so some customer issues.
So I had started talking about this one issue with auctions, and I guess buy it now if you didn't have pay immediately, was there was a guy in Canada, and he won 3 of the auctions. And he was like, great, let's do a combined invoice. And I was like, oh, no, it's global shipping. But I said, okay, I think what you can do is you can request total from seller. And he's like, I can't do that. Like I can't see that option. So I called eBay, and I was like, there's got to be a way to kick this out of global shipping. And they're like, yep, make sure he's signed into ebay.com. He should look at his cart, and then the cart should have the 3 items in it. And there'll be a button that says request total from seller. And he tried that, and it gave him an error. So it was a real crazy pain in the ass, because he's like, the shipping price for global shipping is crazy.
I mean, the good thing is, he was one of these buyers that was willing to talk to us. I mean, he was he felt like we were doing him a favor by working with him.
Right. So what we ended up doing, just to tell the solution, was I said, I'm going to invoice you through PayPal. With the combined shipping price for priority mail to Canada. And he paid that. And what I wanted to do was mark it as paid, then mark it as shipped through eBay. And it wouldn't let me. So it's marked unpaid. I was able to mark it as shipped through my phone. So I marked it as shipped, but it's still marked unpaid. I don't know. But he is going to get it because I have tracking and everything. But it's just one of those things where you're like, come on, eBay. You got to help me get combined shipping with a global shipping thing.
Yeah, I mean,
crazy.
You know, again, this is our ongoing thing. We love global shipping. Make no mistake.
I love it.
We just wish we could turn it off for Canada because, you know, Canada is basically... Yeah, I know Canadians will hate me.
It's basically America.
It's just like a part of America in many ways. So
things get shipped very quickly and efficiently from here to there.
But unfortunately, we just haven't been able to figure out how to turn off global shipping.
So actually, for a lot of my auctions, I'm turning off global shipping and just doing priority because a lot of people do. Especially with like artwork, illustration artwork, they're like, I want to buy all of, you know, this type of artwork, and they'll, you know, bid on everything. Right. So,
I mean, and then here's another example. We sold a sweater last week, and the person got it, and they wrote to us, and it was good. They wrote to us and said, the sweater has holes, and they included photos of the holes. And we were like, oh my God, I cannot believe we missed that.
We really missed them.
And what I did was I immediately apologized. We gave her an immediate refund, including the
shipping, full refund.
No conversation. Yeah. And said, we're so sorry. If you want to buy something else from us, we'll give you a discount.
Yeah, because I think she did best offer on the sweater.
Right. And then she gave us immediately...
Good feedback.
Good feedback. So, like, that's one of those examples where, like, we aren't fucking around. It's just like, that was a mistake that we made. We aren't trying to give her partial refund. It was like, here it is. You know, it was $30, and we pulled all the possibility of argument and bad feeling.
Like, if I were buying stuff, if I bought a sweater and it had holes in it and that wasn't disclosed because for whatever reason we missed it, you know, I would expect them to give me a full refund.
Yeah. And she did. It's right that she was like, thanks for taking care of this so fast. And, you know, I think she was getting ready to go battle. To war because that's unfortunately the experience a lot of people who buy on eBay have is that so many buyers, they're like, no returns. You know?
Right. Like, and then you got to open a case.
Oh, it's just one hole. I mean, like, come on. You know,
it's like, no.
It's like, come on, just own up to its mistakes and just treat people the way you want to be treated.
Exactly.
Now, I'm like this calm Buddha because we've had a lot of experience through this, and I've just learned this through like banging my head against a wall. But that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
By the way, do you know why those holes might be there? Because I can't believe we missed them.
Well, from the photos that I saw, they were on the like side seam underneath, and I think they were small. Okay. Because she kind of like showed them,
like stretched them out. Okay.
But I just think it's one of those things where we've had that sweater for so long that we weren't looking then, and I haven't looked at it since then. Right. And it was on the side seams, like underneath the arm. I'm like, because, you know, definitely missed those.
My nightmare is obviously that we have like moths. But
I don't think we have moths. I think if there were holes in the front or on the sleeve, I'd be more worried.
It wouldn't have just picked right on the
I think it was like underneath the arm, like stitching.
Got it.
That's what the photos look like.
I think that's the other thing. When there's a problem like that, then you just have to talk about it and figure out, are we doing something wrong?
Did we... Yeah.
You know, over and over again, or is it just something that got through?
Yeah.
And the answer would be just we'll double our efforts when we sell a sweater to look everywhere.
And what I do when I sell a sweater, most of the time, I'm inspecting it, you know, front and back sleeves, and so missing that stitching is, you know, now I'm like, I'm definitely looking at the stitching now, but I missed it. You know, it's one of those things where you have such a good run without returns for so long that you're like, everything's cool. And then you're like, damn it, I missed that, you know. The next example is a similar example of missing something. So I sold a Camelback. It's a Camelback like hydration backpack. And the way it was stored in our shed, someone had returned it, but I never put it in the bin, the Rubbermaid bin.
And people have asked about this, you know, how do you do all of your storage? We have a building that's it's controlled, that has all of our
the clothing,
shoes and fabric and clothing. Right. But then we have these outdoor storage where it's more open,
hard goods.
Yeah, and they're more open to just like bugs and heat and cold.
Yeah.
And so I mean, unfortunately, this Camelback got ladybugs and stink bugs.
Yeah, and
that probably crawled in and died.
Yeah, they crawled in, and we've had a real problem, especially with ladybugs. They're fine. They don't bite. They don't do anything.
They're so cute.
They're so cute. And there's so many of them. Right. And they're tiny, so they get in every little hole. And so I think this thing had a bunch of ladybugs. And this guy, too. The funny thing about this guy was he didn't want a partial refund. Like, I got to clean this thing out. He just wanted to return it, which is funny because I'm like, you're going to take all the trouble to return it, even though you could just shake them out and be done with it.
But I did the exact same thing. Yeah. He was like, I just got this thing. It's got bugs. He said it's ladybugs, so I knew he wasn't lying to us.
Yeah, because we know they're ladybugs.
Because, we always have to make sure we clean out any of these items. I mean, it doesn't...
And, again, I missed it.
It doesn't hurt the item to have bugs on it, so you just clean it out and it's good to go.
It out.
And so I was just like, I'll give you a partial id refund immediately right now, or you can send it back for a full id refund, including shipping.
Yeah, everything.
And he was like, I'm just going to send it back. We're like, cool.
Right.
And again, we sucked out any oxygen out of any drama that could have happened. And,
Yeah, I think that's where the professionalism comes in, is you suck out the drama. You're just like, I'm so sorry. You take responsibility and you're like, we'll fix this whatever way is, appropriate.
I think this is the other thing that I used to do, and I hear a lot of it's new people do. There isn't a lot of conversation. Like, I'm not sending huge long paragraphs where I'm explaining reasons and like I'm giving him excuses and I'm telling him personal stories of my life. I'm just like, I'm a business, and I'm just like, okay, this is a problem. This shouldn't have happened. These are your options. Pick one. He picks one. Done.
Yeah.
And then he put it in the mail the very next day.
Basically, that is so we can move on with our day.
Right.
We're sad that it happened. We're like, damn, that sucks,
Right.
But if that's going to take up your whole day, that's an expensive, mistake.
Because I think the reason why it took us a while to learn this is because we had to, again, hit our head against the wall on some of these. There's no way we can win.
Right.
Like, we can draw it out. We can try and, complicate it and go back and forth. But ultimately, the buyer can go to eBay, and eBay gets involved. They read all these as messages where we're trying to make excuses and complicate things, and then eBay's like, refund.
Yeah, and they decides against you.
And they just pull money out of our thing. And the guy might even be able to keep it because we're not giving him the chance to mail it back. So even if you want to go to war, you're never going to win.
Yeah, it's not. Unless, I will say this, that we got another return this week where we sent out these vintage little dollhouse, miniature dollhouse, doll size
plates
and utensils,
right? And a toilet brush.
There was a toilet brush. So random. She was like, "These aren't small enough for a dollhouse." But for me, it was more doll sized. I don't know. I was like, it depends on what size your dollhouse is.
Yeah, I guess it's maybe for a larger G.I. Joe versus a little tiny
doll.
I don't know.
Either way, I think, and she did item not described with the return. I think I can fight that. I'm going to call eBay and be like, these are miniatures for dolls.
She's going to get her a refund no matter what. What we're arguing is,
I don't want the defect.
Yeah, she didn't look well enough at
the description, the size. So anyway, that's an example of I'm gonna fight that with eBay and just.
But that's different between going to war with a buyer. Right. So the buyer really won't be a part of that. The buyer's gonna get its refund like they want. Now it's just between how eBay makes puts that transaction in our record.
Right. So I want to avoid. I don't care if she returns it. That's fine. I just want no defect because I did not describe it wrong.
Yep.
So we have some links we're going to share.
Yeah, we've been people either email these to us or we've been finding them ourselves just scrolling on the internet, and we thought we'd share some of them. A friend of ours actually more and more of our friends are it's knowing we're scavengers and sell things online. So
as you like to say, a trash elf.
A trash elf, yeah. Real quick, I like that word, that term. I feel like I'm a trash elf.
Why?
Because, we go through and we find all this stuff in the garbage or just through the detritus of the world.
Our favorite word.
And then I feel like an elf is like they find little treasures in their presents for people.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it's like you said, we found that oilskin jacket that it would have been thrown away. I think.
It looked like moldy trash.
And we saved it, brought it back to life, and now it's going to England,
Right.
So like a little elf.
Yes.
It's now going somewhere new. So
yes.
I like to say, and actually I came up with that term with a friend of mine who we talk on chat all day long. He's considering he does have a store.
Right.
But he's considering doing this full time instead of having a job. And so we just joke and we started calling ourselves Trash Elves because we talk about the things we find and we're like, I can't believe I found this,
Yeah, it's like magic.
And he has that experience as someone new. He's like, this is literally junk and someone just bought it and they're in Paris or something, It's
right.
This idea of like you're putting stuff into the global marketplace,
I think we need a trash elf mug.
Yeah.
Trash elf.
I would actually buy that, yeah. Yes. So the first link that was sent to us by a friend, there's actually a video in New York.
Yes.
It's Manhattan. Supposedly, the garbage workers aren't allowed to keep anything they find in the trash.
Oh, that's terrible.
I doubt that, but
yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure there's a law that says that. So somewhere there's a big warehouse where this guy has been collecting cool stuff for the past 30 years, and there's a video of it, and he walks around, and it's all the stuff that they found in the trash that they've saved. It's art and sculptures.
Amazing.
I mean,
what?
Supposedly you can make an appointment to go and check it out. I don't know. That seems a little bit like it's not in a real...
It's not like a storefront.
It's museum,
yeah.
But, I mean, the other thing is there's tens of thousands of dollars worth of stuff in there. Incredible.
It's so neat.
But it's also cool, that's what we always say when we go there and we scour the streets and the trash.
Find stuff in the trash.
People are throwing away the most amazing things.
All the time.
So the other link was something that you found.
Yeah, so I got an email from Etsy that they're about to, they just filed for their first IPO, which means they're going to go public, so they're going to sell shares. I don't know what that means to the rest of us. I just thought it was interesting because they've been around for about 10 years and they were just a little startup in Brooklyn. We actually went there and met the founder once because we were going to make a video for them. We didn't end up doing that, but we just went and got to meet them and stuff. So it's kind of funny to see where they're at now.
I mean, it just shows that the company itself is possibly people have enough confidence in it that they're going to invest and buy shares.
Right.
And, I mean, to me, all that stuff is so boring, all the corporate shares and this is not the kind of blog where we keep people up to date on that kind of stuff because that's just shareholders. I find like that starts to make things more complicated because then these corporations start making decisions based on their share prices versus what's actually good for the community. So
we'll see what happens with them, how that shapes the company in years to come, I guess. So that was my news. So you found a story about how the Beanie Baby craze of the late 90s, early 2000s happened.
This is a cool link. And again, you can go to scavengerlife.com, just click on today's podcast, and we'll put those links in there. It's good. We've all heard about the Beanie Baby craze. Well, this one reporter found the kind of core group that started that craze, and it was a group of soccer moms in suburban Chicago.
Yeah.
They're the ones, Beanie Babies are these, what's the company name?
Ty. T-Y.
It's just this guy that was making these little plush toys that sold in gift shops, and no one cared about them except for this group of suburban moms, a small handful of them. And they're the ones that for some reason they felt like they needed to collect them.
Right.
And then because of them, and they started telling their friends, and because it wasn't a very popular company, there weren't a lot of these to find, so that made them more valuable. And then it kind of all folded in on itself. And then he kind of plays out the story to where people are spending $100,000 on a collection that is now worth
nothing.
Zero.
Nothing at all. And you know what's funny? I worked at a toy store at that time during college, and it was the biggest thing. It was huge. People would call the store all day long. Do you have the Princess Di Bear or whatever?
Didn't you tell me that store stayed open basically
because of
on the profits?
Beanie Babies? Yeah.
So crazy.
Definitely.
And and they talk about what a scam it is in the sense of like there was never actually, for the most part, a lack of Beanie Babies. I mean, they're
just made in China. They could crank out whatever they wanted. It's just that
the owner, and he talked about it, he was just smart. He would only let stores buy a certain amount. So he was always controlling the inventory and making it seem, like there weren't a lot of them.
Limited edition.
Did you have the blue bear?
No, it was like the Jerry Garcia bear and stuff like that.
I'm sorry for anyone out there that got into that craze, but it is one of those stories where it's more about compulsion, obsessive compulsion.
Like I have to have all of them.
Then there's no intrinsic value for any of them. So,
And now I just see them. It's so funny because I'll see them at thrift stores and just nobody's buying. Like they just sit there and get dusty.
But we experience that just in our own store. Things like Starbucks mugs. Like we always buy them whenever we see them, and people buy them for $20 or more.
It's like so ridiculous. Why? But it's so funny. Every time it's just hilarious. Every time I look at other people's stores, like people email us several times a day. We get emails of people like, hey, I would love to see your store. This is my store. And I always look at people's store. Everybody has Starbucks mugs. Right. But it's cool because I feel like
Bolo.
Be on the lookout. Because you find them everywhere, and they can be really valuable. Yeah. It's really, and they sell all the time, and it just seems so. It's so.
But the only difference is we would never invest large amounts of money to buy them to hopefully sell them.
Yeah, but if I find them, I get them.
Cabbage Patch, and we could name.
Ugh.
And they even tie it to back in Amsterdam in the 1600s, the tulip craze where people were paying.
Yeah,
hundreds and thousands of ducats or whatever they had. So
ducats.
It's all good.
Yeah.
And then the last one is a link. I thought it was cool. We sell a lot of army garb. If you're out there finding old uniforms that people give up or give away,
and they sell really well on eBay.
And it's just this cool story about how the army gear became popular in mainstream culture because it wasn't always that way. It was, and some of you have probably know this during the Vietnam era. The protesters started to wear it, and then it got into fashion consciousness.
Yeah,
and then
it's very fashionable.
And there's the one that's like iconic, and that's the M65 OD green jacket,
when you click on this article, if you haven't seen it or you don't know what it looks like, it's right at the top of the page.
Right, and it's super cool, and it's still awesome.
I had one in high school.
Yeah.
I wore it in high school as a punk.
People will sometimes buy them for $100, but then there are people that sell them online for $10.
Yeah.
So,
it's tough.
But they're well made, and it's cool. It's a cool article.
And the other thing too is this is just a practical standpoint. That army clothing and military clothing, it's so well made because it has to be in a battle scenario, and these people are wearing these things every single day as a uniform. So I mean, those jackets last forever. I mean, they're super sturdy. All the pockets, just the non-rip,
a metal zipper.
Yeah, just really, really good quality. So
and things we learned in the comment this week. Again, it was a very busy week in the comments, which is always enjoyable for us to hear. But there was a short conversation about if you've been selling on eBay for a while, this has happened to you, where you'll get a comment out of the blue from just somebody who's just complaining about your store or a particular item.
Right.
They're never going to buy it.
Right.
They're not asking a question. They're just yelling at you because you've misdescribed something. They're angry because you're charging too much. Yeah.
How could you... This happens so many times on our store. How can you think anyone would pay $40 for this item? Right. And you're like, block this person
that's
right
not
away.
From the 1950s. That's from 1961. You should clearly know this. And so we were just talking because some of the people in the blog were saying they get into conversations with those people and they start arguing it's with them. And, trust me, I've done that before.
It's a bad thing to do. It takes up a lot of your time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fake outrage.
What we do is we block those people.
Yep.
And we're silent. And that's the best weapon against them because those people want you to
engage with them.
So if you're silent, especially if you block them, then they have no way to lash out at you.
Yeah,
and
there's nothing to say.
It's great.
Yeah, so that's the easiest route to take.
Yeah.
Route to take. Route. That's the easiest thing, and that's what we do.
Yeah, and so if you're hearing this maybe on the a YouTube.com website, you can actually get involved in our community by just going to scavengerlife.com, and we have comments. And,
so we can learn things from you in the comments.
A good group of people, yeah.
Yes, so let's talk about our coming week.
Yep.
We still have a lot of artwork. Of artwork to take a picture of.
So this was like an ice floe that I could not break through.
Yeah.
So you're going to help me where you're going to take pictures of it and then I'm going to actually write down what everything is and measure it. And
I will say the more text you give me is so helpful because I just throw that text in the description.
Right.
Good to go.
Right. So I'm willing to help you if you help me.
So we also have to take a picture of all that Quimper stuff, which is taking up our kitchen table, so we actually can't eat at the kitchen table now.
It looks like we have a convention of grandmas that came over and put all their pottery on our kitchen table. We love grandmas, but grandmas sometimes have a certain look, and that's what the look looks like.
A certain kind of grandmas,
And so, so I guess that's really going to be
our week. It's not glamorous. I need to go buy some more newspaper end rolls. That's like something that has to get done.
And and that's something we talked about. I guess the last time we did it was months ago. If you call or email
it was a year ago. Yeah,
wow.
Those I bought 10 end rolls at the local newspaper, and it lasted me a year.
So if you call your local, it's a newspaper, they make their newspapers obviously close by.
Right.
And they will probably sell them to you. And they'll either sell them by the pound or by the inch. Yeah. On the thing, on
the rolls of paper.
On the rolls. And normally, it's not that much. It's cheap.
I spent $20 last time because it was $2 a roll.
And so we filled up the back of our car, and then we have a closet we put it all in. And so this is a newspaper print that has been printed on. So it's great for wrapping things.
I cannot when I started to run out, I started calling all the newspapers around because the one that I usually go to was like, we're out and we have a waiting list. So I'm like calling all these places, desperate, because I'm just like, I can't live without this stuff.
Right.
Like, it's so necessary for shipping. I use it all the time.
And when we first did it, we thought they would think we were crazy, but it's
normal, very
normal. And
the fact that they sell it means people want it.
Yeah, and we didn't have to explain why we.
Yeah, I'm like, I just need end rolls, and they're like, yep. So we're going to go to a different place that sells it, I think, by the pound, which is unfortunate because it's very heavy, but
it's still cheap.
It doesn't matter because I need it. So
cool. So as always, we like to answer questions that people either email in or we have a voicemail.
Yes, so you can call and leave a voicemail, and the phone number is 540-407-8486, and it's just a voicemail. Nobody picks up. You have a 3-minute limit, so you can't go over that. There's no reason for you to go over that limit, although some people do and get cut off. We love international calls, although we don't get them very often, but we have in the past. So we will listen to those calls right now.
Hey, Jay and Ryan, this is, my name is Brian. I'm eBay and Amazon seller who was a long-time listener, and I just want to say thanks for the intelligence of your podcast here. It is a breath of fresh air in a otherwise landscape of conmen and shysters. But anyways, I'm really interested in the angle you take on knives. And a quick question on shipping those knives. I started dabbling in that, and I thought maybe making, I guess, a cardboard sheath would be appropriate. But I was just wondering if what you've done, and maybe if you had like purchased some sort of general sheath, I guess, because at the Goodwill they usually sell them with like tape on them. Where over here, I'm in Illinois, but just curious, and I want to say thanks, and hope you guys never stop. This is by far the best product on the market. Thanks, and take care. Bye.
Yeah. So when I ship the knives, I
And just to be clear, these are like, it's kitchen knives. So they aren't knives that fold up. It's just like, you're going to mail a big old butcher knife.
It's not like a Swiss Army knife. Yeah, it's like a big butcher knife.
Sharp, pointy.
So when I'm shipping boxes, sometimes I have to cut boxes down or reshape them. So I keep that scrap cardboard just in like a pile. And I use that scrap cardboard and I fold it over and I tape it shut to make a tight sheath around the knife. And then I ship the knife in a box that has like newspaper all around it to pad it. And that's how I ship them. And they are always fine that way. Basically you just want the sharp part to, not cut through the box and then not hurt someone when they're opening the box. And it's that simple, just scrap cardboard.
So, when a lot of stores, not a lot, I see very few thrift stores, but some of them will cut cardboard and tape it up for you. But often they use really like a thin cardboard.
Right.
So what we use is like the thick,
like a box,
cardboard.
like a cardboard that came off of a box.
Right. And then really tape that up. So it would take a lot for someone to like sit on the box and push through.
Yeah. Basically, you've got that sheath, and then you pad it out with newspaper, and you're fine. Yeah. So that's how I do it.
Cool. Okay, so we do get questions by email, and I'm going to read a couple of them here. So we got one from. They say, we are new to eBay. My wife and I have been doing eBay on and off for a few years now. It's mostly buying and doing only a little bit of selling. Very common. We're in the process of figuring out how serious we are about the eBay idea. My specific question has to do with discounting items we have for sale. What is the process for marking down items for a short period? I've not been able to find any info online. And then he just says that him and his wife have a good partnership in this. Like, she loves to actually like find the stuff, and he likes to actually box it up and ship it. So
cool.
That's a good example. Yeah. But that's a good question, about it's discounting items.
Right.
And I'm assuming that feeling's coming because I'm going to make a prediction. This person has like 100 things in their store.
Right.
And they're selling like 3 things a month.
Yeah.
And they feel like they just need to give more action. So what seems to make sense is, let's like discount everything and we'll just fire sale it and move it. But what's going to happen is that if people don't want it for $10, they don't want it for $5.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, people aren't like watching this item and waiting for the price to go down. They just aren't watching that item because the people that want that item just aren't online at that moment,
So 2 things. 1, you should list more. 2, there is a markdown manager. I don't know if it's only for people with stores, but I don't know the exact link because I had to bookmark it because I could never find it. That's how easy eBay makes it. So if you Google eBay Markdown Manager, you should be able to find the link.
Yeah. So I mean,
bulk edit.
Again, we're not saying don't do it, but I just don't think it's going to be very helpful if that's a problem you're trying to solve.
There are other ways to solve that problem.
Right. But yeah, so you can mark things down, and again, we don't know if you have to have a store, but you can normally just bulk edit everything. Yeah. And again, this is a good example of just call eBay. Like, eBay is your partner. You're the one paying them. I mean, that's basically it's what's happening. They get 10% of everything, so you should call them and have them tell you what to do.
Yep, exactly.
Hey, Scavenger Life. Thanks for the phone number. I've got a question. This guy owns a used bookstore. He's got all these old periodicals, technical periodicals, chemistry, chemical engineering, American City, the Federal Reserve, all these hardcover. You can have them all, he says, for free, but you got to take them all. There's like 1,000. It's like 40 feet long and 6 foot high. I have to rent a U-Haul. But I haven't been able to find any of them on eBay, completed listings, or trying to look on Amazon is difficult to find out what things are actually sold for. So I wonder if you had any insight into this before I go renting a U-Haul and having to get all these boxes. Really enjoy your show.
Okay, so Jay, what do you think?
True. Yeah. Okay. I mean, here's my thing. I wouldn't do it. That's my gut. We just talked about like taking 15 boxes of art, of illustration art, and now we're having to take pictures and list them all. The good thing for you is you're going to get them for free, so you don't have to split any of the profit.
Right.
But the thing is, if you don't have a good pipeline where you could process all this stuff real fast, what you're taking on is like 2 years of mountains of stuff that you're probably never going to get through, Or
the other thing too is you have to be so excited to do that,
right?
To make it happen.
I think that the fact that you're calling us, asking us, means that you have doubts, and once you have doubts, it means I don't know if your excitement. I think if you're really passionate about something, like so, you don't care what anyone says. You're like, I want this stuff in my life. I want piles of magazines in my life.
Oh God! I
mean, the other thing you can do is just be scientific about it. Go over there with your phone.
Yep, look some of those up,
and just start. Like if they have barcodes, you can scan it, or just look it up on your computer or your phone, and you can start to see.
Yeah.
I mean, if things are selling for, $1 a piece, it's going to be tough. And yeah, you can bundle, but again, do you want to bundle, 100 magazines and then ship 100 magazines and people paying you $30? Or maybe these are really rare, like magazines, like scientific magazines, and people are going to pay you $500 for each one. I mean, you got to
do the research. You have to do the research. You have to say, what is it? What will it sell for? Right. Do I feel confident in making money? Am I excited about it?
But it's a good question.
Yeah.
The basic question is this. If I can get something for free, should I get it to sell it? And the answer is, it depends. But we don't get stuff just because it's for free.
Right.
We've made this mistake with clothes before.
Yeah.
Where in the early days, we found sources where we could just get more clothes, as many clothes as we wanted to get for so cheap.
Yeah.
But then we realized we were surrounded by clothes that really wouldn't sell.
Really want.
We weren't excited about,
Yeah.
We were creating a sweatshop.
Yes.
For ourselves.
Don't create a sweatshop.
Yeah.
That is not what you want.
Yeah. This gentleman writes in and he says, how about a podcast on cash flow?
Interesting.
A savings and good solid money management. He said he was impressed because we recently said that we had gone to our accountant, got our taxes done, found out how much we owed, and we just wrote a check.
Right.
Like we had his money in our account, So he says some of us have an extremely difficult time dealing with our savings. And he says, I'm one of those people. He says, I owned a printing business for 30 years and I was considered one of the best. But I never really advanced financially because I had such a hard time trying to manage my cash flow. As far as I'm concerned, you can be the best picker on eBay, but if you can't manage your money and cash flow, you'll ultimately be better off it's with a job, So I wonder how many eBay sellers out there are wondering how they can get more money for their inventory and taxes and Social Security. How much do I save? How much do I pay myself and when? Ryan has said a few times, I'm so cheap. And that's probably the single most important thing you can have going for you when you start your own.
Yeah. Frugal.
It's business because most businesses suck money up like a vacuum cleaner, especially in the beginning times. So he says, you and Ryan seem so focused and together. I would be very interested to see what you guys have to say about the subject of cash flow and savings.
Okay, well, I will say this. You are the cash flow guy. I am good at doing the bookkeeping. I am good at categorizing things and making sure everything is, ready for taxes. But in terms of like making sure the mortgage is paid and making sure our bills are paid and making sure we can save money for 3 to 4 months before we have to pay our taxes to pay our taxes. That's you.
So what I'll say is this and we remind people of this. So we're just like artists, Right. We're like the more creative types.
Yes.
We didn't go to business school.
Right.
I never thought I would really own a business or run a business.
Or run 3 businesses.
Or is whatever. So it's not a natural thing that we had planned or trained for.
Right.
I don't know how to do Excel spreadsheets. Right. The reason why we go to an accountant is because I would never think I could do my own taxes beyond just a 1040 EZ.
Right.
So when someone says cash flow, I think that's like a financial word that I don't think I even know what exactly that means, like how to manage that. I will tell you what I do.
Yeah.
I have a text document that I keep our monthly expenses in and our monthly income in.
Yeah.
And I'm always checking our accounts.
That's cash flow.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm just keeping that up to date. It's so simple. I have my own little thing that I do. And so I always know how much money we have, how much money we're going to need to have.
Right.
Gives a good hint. The thing we have in our favor is we're super cheap.
Yeah.
We don't spend money. We don't really go out to eat very often. We don't buy really anything for ourselves.
We don't actually buy anything ever other than merchandise.
I mean, often the stuff that we have for ourselves is we go and scavenge. We find something cool. We realize it's got a little too many defects. It's not cool enough to sell in that state, but it's cool enough for us to keep.
And that's so rare.
And so that's the kind of thing
unless we actually need it.
I don't know. I guess it's more about personality.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to like stop ourselves from spending. I think it's just our personality is we don't want to spend.
Well, the other thing too is I'm kind of like, I have everything I need, really.
Right.
Like, we have a car that's paid off.
I think that's the personality thing. There are some people who
don't.
Their personality is like, I want that new truck.
Right.
Like, I want a new car. Like, my car is 5 years old. I'd love to get that new car,
Right.
Like, it's going to help me get around better, all that stuff. I mean, we're like, our car is almost 28 years old. It has almost 300,000 miles. Can we push it past 300,000?
Every time we go to the mechanic, we're like, will this last another year? Oh, my God.
I mean, let's talk about it a little bit. We want to go into big detail.
Yeah.
So up until now, we've been spending a lot of our profits investing in a rental business.
All of our profits, yeah.
And it's good. So now we have another business up and it's running that will hopefully be making income.
Yeah.
So now our goal for the next couple of years is paying off debt.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to be doing off now. And so it's almost like we're going to treat this debt as like things we want to buy. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, like I don't need fancy shoes. I don't need a fancy car. I just want to pay off my debt.
Like, I dream about this. I'm like, okay, we have this like $20,000 a loan on a piece of land. We can pay that off. And and so I'm always trying to do it's math, like how much what do we need to pay each month and just pay it off,
Yeah.
My dream is like we have no debt.
Yeah.
I want to get, like no home debt, no any debt.
Right.
That's my dream.
That's a goal.
That's what excites us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if that helps you, but I think that's really just, it's about being a thrifty and, dreaming about paying off debt. Like that's the exciting thing, not creating debt.
I mean, the other thing too is in terms of taxes, for a fact that you have to pay taxes either if you're self-employed every quarter or at the end of every year. You're not one of those people that pulls a paycheck and they do it for you and then you file for a refund or whatever.
Yeah.
So every year by April 15th, you have to have a certain chunk of money. So you need to prepare for that.
Right, like it's no surprise.
It's never a surprise. It sucks.
I mean,
but
it's a big chunk of change, but that's what pays our Social Security,
all that
our
stuff.
Medicare. You're paying into it. So then, when you get to be a certain age, you then get the benefit from it.
So whether you pay it quarterly or you pay it before April 15th, it's got to happen. So you got to prepare for it.
Right.
So that's just...
But I think that's the other thing about, he's talking about when he ran a business too. I mean, I bet running a print shop, it's different from running an eBay store. I mean, there's a lot more costs. Right. I'm sure you have employees and equipment.
Rent
and you're buying, like paper and, inventory and that kind of stuff. I mean, the cool thing about this kind of business that we're all doing with eBay is that there aren't a lot of costs,
Right. There's not a lot of overhead.
I mean, that's why we don't choose to like buy warehouse space or have employees. Like, we don't want to take on those costs. We would rather do the work ourselves and then keep all the profits for ourselves,
When basically we invest our profits back into our other businesses.
Yeah.
Okay, next phone call.
Hi, good morning. This is Mayor from New York. I have two questions. First of all, do you use unpaid item assistant? I do, and I love it. After 4 days real time, it's turned over to eBay on their software. eBay gives them another 4 days to pay, and then they give me my final value fee back, and they give the buyer a strike against their account. And my second question is, when somebody gives you an offer, do you use watch count? If the offer is like insulting, either like a third or a half of what the item is. It's amazing when you look up the buyer on watch count, what they've paid for other things versus what they want to pay you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Okay, so unpaid item assistant I think is a very good idea. I do not use it only because there are many instances where people, two things. People are like, hey, I can pay next Thursday. Fine. I don't want to open an unpaid item case against them. The second thing is, because we travel so many times, I don't want to accidentally have that on and have unpaid item cases being opened on people, and then I'd have to turn that off.
Well,
and whatever,
because people will buy, like, if we're away for a month and it's make us an offer and we accept and we tell them we can't ship for 3 weeks, we allow them to not pay until we get back.
Right. Some people do pay right away, but if we take an offer, we're like, no problem, whatever. The other thing is, I did just start now when eBay used to show what people bought, I would look at what people bought. Like, someone gives me an offer on a handbag. I see, okay, they only buy handbags and they definitely buy them for over $100. So I'm going to, counter this person. eBay took that ability away. But like you said, watch count, you can do that. And we actually just realized that last week that watch count can do that. So now I'm obsessed with it. I search even just people who ask questions. I'm like, what did they buy? Like, it's really cool to, again, be able to see that information. So yeah, I definitely think it's a very good tool to use.
Okay, so we got another question by email. This woman says that I've heard you talk about your monthly invoice, and it seems that with the amount of sales you have and how much your monthly fees are, I pay the same amount, but with way lower sales. So she thinks she pays more in fees than we do. And she said, I was wondering if you could do a podcast on it sometime. For instance, I sold $780 of inventory in February. I only have 260 items in it's my store, and I ended up paying about a total of $100 in all my fees, Okay. So she's like, is there something going wrong? So it's great. I love it that someone's looking at its numbers.
Yes.
Because I find a lot of people on eBay just are not, they just assume they're getting ripped off. They're assuming all these things, like everything's wrong, because all they see is how much is in their PayPal account. And, I guess like the guy said about cash flow, people are like pulling money out to pay bills and they aren't keeping track of their profit.
Right.
So this is what I do. She made about $800 and she paid about $100 in fees.
Right.
That's about right. I mean,
that percentage sounds right.
I've said it before. We always assume that our fees on eBay are going to be about 13%. Because that's like after PayPal fees, eBay final value fees,
eBay listing, store
fees. Yeah, all those fees, they get about 13%. So, if you make, $100, they're going to take out $13.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's about how much she paid in fees, and that sounds about right.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I guess maybe some people, like, they don't realize, like, that's how much they have to pay in fees.
Right.
But if you talk to anyone that has a brick and as mortar store, and you tell them that your fees out of your profits are 13%, their jaw will drop. Because they're probably sometimes doing, like, half in fees and rent and utilities
40 to 50%,
and
just
employees.
Crazy.
And, so that's about right.
Right. This call is 3 minutes long, so this person gets cut off.
But it's a good phone story, so we're gonna let it play.
Hi, Scavenger Life. I was listening to episode 185, and you're talking about the guy coming into the dentist office and trying to leave those products there. And then you said that you did that, and it just reminded me that I did that about 20 years ago. They called it Display America. I think that's what the name of the company was. And the guy would send you out there. We had Disney stuff. This is back with VHS 20 years ago. And we had a 5-box set of these sports bloopers. And it was only a half an hour on each tape. You could have fit it all on one tape, but they made it look like this big package you were getting. We had to go to every business. He said if you didn't stop at every business, it was display marketing suicide. That's his exact words. And we'd go in there and we'd say, oh, hello, my name is Jeff Bob, and I'm in here. I just want to do a little marketing exposure. And they'd say, oh, no, we're really not interested. Oh, I understand. Back to the script. Just let me leave this here for a few days, and we just want to find out if anyone happens to be interested. And if 10 people end up signing up, then this box set of blooper videos is yours free. And then they had us do some kind of Columbo move where we leave, we're about to leave, then we turn around and kind of hold our hands to our forehead, and we say, I think that's when I said it. I go, oh yeah, one more thing. If you have 10 people sign up, this one's yours free. And that's the last statement you leave in their head. And it was awful. The first week they sent me up north. I live in Michigan, Detroit area. They sent me way up north. I had some friends that let me stay in their cabin. And I went and did that. Oh, it was horrible. And you had to call them at 10 o'clock. And then every 2 hours you had to call them and like tell them, how you were doing, your sales, and how many drops you left. And then he'd give you pep talks because you were getting turned down with so many no's. He's telling you, go out there, do it, you can do it. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you go and drop the stuff off, and then Thursday, Friday, you come back to pick them up. Well, my first week of ever doing it, I got second high sales. So I was all excited. Oh, I'm going to be great at this. So I got my buddy who had just quit his job waiting tables, and we went out and did it. Oh, my gosh. My buddy passed the church, and I saw that there were cars there. And I said, no, you got to turn around. It's display marketing suicide if you pass it up. So he just slams on the brakes, turns the car around, goes off the road into the ditch. It's 10 in the morning. We have to.
So that's the end of the story because he got cut off. Yeah, I can imagine what happened, though.
So he's talking about my story last week where I talked about how back in the old days I had these little different jobs where you're just taking these horrible sales jobs, and it was just
selling nothing that you care about.
And I hope that people who sell on eBay, maybe you've had these jobs, and I guess I do this when I am having maybe a day where I'm just why am I selling junk online? This is the worst thing.
Yeah,
I have to remember these kind of experiences.
Right. The door-to-door salesman.
Just jobs where sometimes eBay isn't fun, selling online.
Right.
But the difference is you have control over what you do. And like you said earlier, if I'm getting totally brought down, taking pictures of a certain kind of item, I'm feeling so frustrated, I should just stop and do something else.
Right.
There's a million
There's all
things
these other
to do.
things you could be doing.
Right. And, obviously the one thing we all love doing that you could always do is you could go and scavenge, you know?
Sometimes we've had to do that. We got to break things up and just get out of the house.
But at the same time, when you run your business, ultimately you have to have some kind of discipline where you're doing things you don't always like to do, but if you know that it's, you know, a finite amount of tasks.
Doing the bookkeeping.
Gotta do it, you know? So
not fun.
You can't just be scavenging all the time and not a listing.
Right. But it's nice to hear from other people that they're like, I know, I used to do that crappy job. I'm so glad I don't do that anymore.
Doing sales like that was all about, suicide. It was like, you're basically just like calling people or walking into people, knocking on doors, and you're just like, know that 99 out of 100 times you're just going to get shot down, and you just do it. It's just like suicide.
Display marketing suicide.
Totally.
Oh my God. Okay, so next email.
Okay, he says, I just received a negative feedback on an item. It actually said the seller did not ship the item, which I did. I checked that the item and it was shipped, but as not it's received yet, they asked for a return before they got it. You know, so it's one of those things where if you just calm down, it can get taken care of.
Yeah.
And he said what he did was he just called eBay.
Right.
And eBay took the negative feedback. He also said that the person in the feedback called him a jerk off.
Oh, what?
So, but you know, this is a good story. A seller took care of it.
Did the right thing.
It's actually really good when a buyer says things like that.
Because very fast eBay's like, nope, take it away.
As soon as they start either saying, if you don't give me a refund, I'm going to give you bad feedback, or if they call itchy names, you know, eBay will always take your side.
Yeah.
So it's actually, that's the best thing. The worst thing you can do is, like we said earlier, is to get into a back and forth.
Do not do it.
So, but what his question is, should we all share our a list among ourselves?
I've seen blogs do that in the past where they post it publicly. Block all these buyers. I don't think it's necessary because if someone causes a problem for you, I mean, they'll probably cause problems for other people, but that's not always the case. I mean, I have been mad at other sellers for selling me crap before. They probably blocked me, but I'm a fine buyer. Like, I shouldn't be blocked all the time.
Yeah,
you know?
I think I agree. The danger in that is that I think there's some people that really get into this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they really get into, like, it's retribution and revenge. And, you know, I just feel like if you started to make these public block lists or blacklists, that people would start getting on there that really shouldn't be on there. You know? So, because a seller has their own vision of what
a problem buyer
is. So,
like a problem, like some people might consider someone just returning an item a problem buyer.
Right. Like, block that person.
Yeah, like they're blocked, they can never buy it. And you're like, that's a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
But, you know, so I don't want to block people who just return something for some, you know.
Yeah.
So, no, I don't think we should share our blocked.
But it sounds like you did exactly what you should have done. And
perfect outcome.
Good for you.
Okay, next call.
My name's Steven. I'm from Indianapolis. I'm 26, and I love the podcast. It's been a huge inspiration. I started selling about a month ago, and I currently have an inventory of, like, I think 150 items, and I've actually sold 60 in this past month or so with a $400 profit on top of my inventory and all my business expenses being paid for. And that's all thanks to you guys and one other podcast, actually. But I love your guys' huge backlog of content, and, like, the Hour Plus podcast. It's great. Like, I listen to you guys while I'm working at my machinist job, you know, CNC machinist, you know what that is. But I've been listening to you guys like 4 hours a day. Like, I can't get enough, like, for the past month, which means I'm running out, and it makes me sad. But, you know, it's just, it gives me the dream of, like, living to where me and my fiance can just do eBay and, like, have time to focus on, like, our baby that's coming in September and, like, college and, you know, and starting the careers that we want, but really enjoying the, you know, like you said, own your time. And, even just after a month, I really think that eBay is like always going to be in our life. And I love your guys' lifestyle. Like, I too now want to own my own property, and like have a vacation getaway in some beautiful place. But like, I guess the first step is like moving somewhere beautiful, aka like not Indianapolis. But you guys like bond so well as a couple, and like Ryan, it's so cool that you listen to Pumpkin Ska. Like, that's awesome. I blew my mind when I heard that. And like Jay, you stay humble and like you don't want to be a motivational speaker, but like I know this is the case for a lot of us when I say this. Like, you motivate and inspire like a lot of people, including myself. And like I wouldn't have had this much success in 1 month without your guidance. Like you're my Tony Robbins, Jay. Anyways, enough with the fangirl stuff. I do have a question. I currently have like a personal PayPal, and I was wondering like what's the benefit of having a business? Or more or less what's the cons? I've looked up the benefits and like they seem like all benefits. Like, well, why is there even a personal if business is so much better? And also I wondered like what is a good place to find estate sales around here? I currently just go to the blue bins, and I want to, broaden my horizons a bit. And I was just wondering if you guys could share a little bit on that. Thanks so much for your podcast. Thanks. All right. Bye.
Okay.
Oh, man. I feel like proud parents,
I know. Oh, my God.
I guess I'm getting old enough where I can say I love hearing from young people.
Young people.
Like, I love hearing from people, like, I don't know, in their early 20s or in their 20s.
Yeah.
This is stuff I never thought about, like, money and business.
Buying
and
property.
Yeah. I was just... Yeah, it was my 20s,
Yeah, I think that's normal nowadays. That's
I can even say
20s.
That was into my 30s too. So
right, most of your 30s.
But I think that I think it's great, especially if you have a partner and you start talking about this and you start openly discussing what you want.
Right.
Like we said when we started our business, the big thing we did first was write down our expenses.
Yes, that's a huge thing.
We didn't learn this from anyone. That's just what makes sense. Like, how much do we need to make?
Right.
And what is the fat that we can trim?
Right.
And then once we know, for us, it was $2,000. That's what we needed to make every month. So then when we started doing eBay, we were like, okay, how much work do we have to put in to make $2,000? And once we made that pipeline, like other people will find out, you actually go way past what you probably need pretty quickly, just because once that pipeline starts flowing, it's just like it's going.
Yeah. The other thing too about PayPal is there's like 3 versions of PayPal. There's a business, personal, and Premier. I don't know if they've gotten rid of Premier, but it was the same as a business account. So basically you want to upgrade to a business account because I think you can take credit cards. People can just pay on eBay with their credit card and it goes through. Just upgrade.
And that's just upgrading. It doesn't cost you anymore.
You just click a button.
I think you just have to, don't you have to connect it to your bank account, or do you have to do that anyway?
I think you have to do that anyway with a personal account because that's the backup funding for PayPal.
Right.
So I think personal accounts, I can't explain to you why that is any different. Or why they exist. But a lot of people do PayPal, but they don't run a business. They just buy stuff on eBay, and they don't need a business account to take credit cards. But just upgrade. It's a button. It doesn't matter. You're not going to notice any different other than people can use credit cards.
And, and again, the cool thing is that if this guy and his wife start selling like they are now, and they really start building a business and don't do a lot of things a lot of people do, start getting all these cars and
you don't need that stuff.
We have we know a young couple who it's married when they're 20, and the first thing they do is, because this is what happens, all these stores and everyone wants to give them credit, so they got $8,000 worth of furniture on credit. They got they bought two new cars. They bought their car. I mean, their home obviously on credit because who can buy a house in cash very often, And so I talk to him sometimes, and he's like, he's like, I'm still paying off this bedroom set for $6,000. I can't believe I bought this cherry wood furniture for bedroom set. Like, why didn't you just go down to the local thrift store? They have more furniture than because I think for him it was like and his wife, they were like, we're like we're adults now, and this is what you do. This is a rite of passage. This is the things we need to look like we're adults with all this stuff, that looks nice, And I'm like, $6,000, man. I'll tell you what to do with that. Yeah, right. You could do so much with that. It's crazy. So anyway, really big good luck to you. So finding estate sales too. Oh yeah, that's right. Go to estatesales.net and put in your zip code, and you should be able to search, within, several hundred miles. I mean, you could search the whole country, but wherever you're willing to drive. And the cool thing is it'll send you alerts as well when something pops up. There's also auctionzip.com. So if you want to look up, if you're near Indianapolis, there's a lot of stuff going on. And actually Auction Zip, I mean, estate sales and auctions are very kind of, sometimes they're intertwined. So, some estate sales are actually auctions. It's just in the person's home, Right. So, it's the same thing. So, so if you want to go beyond thrift stores and Goodwill and stuff like that. It's funny where he was like, I don't read it's newspaper, just assuming that's where all that stuff is. And it's true. There is a lot of stuff in the paper. But we don't read the paper either. Yeah, it's all online. It's all online. Just go to estatesales.net or auctionzip.com. I'm telling you, you could go to an auction almost every day of the week, especially if you're in a metropolitan area. Right, you'll be able to find them. Yeah, go and it'll be fun. It's like we said, do a date night. Like we love doing it. And if your wife is visibly pregnant, maybe people will give you a break on. That's right. Yeah. Although you said September, so that's kind of a ways off. But that's funny. So we got an email, and so. Let me just be clear. So I've actually talked to this person, and we've had a long conversation back and forth. It all turned out good. Yeah. But I'm going to be a little bit critical. Okay. It's constructive criticism. Jay is very good at being critical. We're not going to say the name of the person. Okay. But I hope she knows I love her and that, I'm not saying this to personally attack anyone, but I just want to try and tell a story so we all learn from it. So she says, I have a situation that eBay keeps doing to me. I sold a pair of scissors a year ago for $250. The girl filed a return to PayPal. PayPal gave her an immediate refund without notifying me, and the buyer got to keep the item. I fought the case. I won the case, but PayPal refused to give me my money back. Fast forward, last month a woman bought $350 in jewelry. She opened a case item not as described. I offered her a partial refund. She started to threaten me, so I took back the offer. I asked her to send the stuff back. I called eBay. eBay said, well, if she doesn't return the item, you get it's money that she paid for. But the woman got all of her money back and got to keep the stuff, and eBay didn't tell me about it. What? Why does this keep happening to me? How can I stop this from happening in the future? I'm getting ripped off by buyers, and it makes me want to leave eBay. Okay, my first question is this. just real quick. Someone bought something a year ago, they can't open a case on eBay or PayPal. A year ago? I mean, I think that happened. Oh, that happened a year ago. It happened. Okay. So she had this bad experience. A year ago. And then it happened again. Okay. Look. Okay. Well, like I said, this is woman and I have talked. Okay. And we worked it out to, I think, between yourselves. So I think to a good conclusion. But this is how I walked her through it. Okay. I mean, the tone of the story is victim. Panic and victim. Is that things are happening to you. And this idea, and the reason why the story doesn't make sense is like eBay and PayPal don't do anything without documenting it. Right. So, and telling you. I mean, that's why there's like a system for cases, Yes. So someone opens a case, the buyer and seller each have a chance to write something, and then eBay makes a decision. PayPal does that too. I mean, PayPal has a case, and they'll tell you what the problem is, and they give you a chance to say something.
Right.
So there is never a point where something's just going to happen
to you
and you're not going to know about it, right. Unless you aren't checking your email, So that's the thing. And like I said, and we talked about this earlier, if someone is unhappy with an item, the first thing that we do is we suck the oxygen out of the conversation so there's no drama.
Right.
Someone says, I don't like this thing. We say, okay, mail it back, full refund, period.
Right.
And that's all there is.
The solution.
That's all there is to it. There's no long excuses. Yeah. There's no, well, why don't you just take a partial as refund, try and talk them into keeping it,
Yeah.
And that way, if they still complain, eBay will look at its messages and see, well, you offered them a full refund if they mailed it back. If they haven't mailed it back, then we don't know what the problem is.
Right, exactly.
Either they mail it back and get a refund, or they get to keep it and you keep the money. I mean, that's happened to us where people have complained about an item. We're like, mail it back. And then they don't mail it back. And then they keep complaining, and we call eBay. And eBay's like, yeah, if this person leaves any feedback, it won't affect you because they're obviously not playing by the rules.
Just call back and get it removed because they're not. Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, I think one thing with this story was I think she got especially panicked because these are big items.
Yeah, $350 is a lot of money.
And I don't know how big the person's store is, but, if you have a smallish store, $300 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that might happen to people is they sell $300 worth of stuff. It's in their PayPal account. That money gets spent right away.
Right.
Someone emails them a week later is like, I want my money back. And they're like, I don't have $300 because I had to pay my cable bill. You know? I mean, then that adds a level of drama. But the point is, like our gentleman that was asking about cash flow, the buyer, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you spent that as money, that's your problem. And that's the thing about running a business. You shouldn't spend money that you may need to have to cover these kind of problems.
You need a buffer.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of a good way to deal with that. Is just like no drama.
Right.
No drama, mama.
So did she explain how they took money without telling her, or was that just a misconception? She didn't really.
I think that's one of the problems when you get into the community of forums and people are really yelling about eBay is that a lot of the stories don't really make sense. I mean, she couldn't really say about why she wasn't contacted. I mean, that's not possible.
Yeah.
Because a lot of this stuff is automated. I mean, there's no evil eBay elf that is watching you at your home and doing things to you without you. It's it's this huge corporation with just an automated a system that handles this stuff. So if someone starts a return, it triggers an email that gets sent to you automatically. I mean, it's not like there's a choice whether to send it to you or not. So I just think sometimes people tell stories and
they leave certain,
or they aren't aware that certain things are happening.
Right. I've noticed that with anyone who's emailed us in the last 2 years, this happened to me, eBay's trying to take me down. We're like, well, what about this? What about this? And as the details come out, you're like, they shut your store down because you stopped shipping stuff to people.
Right. Or,
that's what happens.
Or there was a comment recently on the blog where some guy was like, eBay just shut down. It's my store, or it's suspended me, but it's because I was selling both on eBay and Amazon, and I couldn't keep track of my inventory.
Yeah.
I was selling the same item, and I wasn't keeping track of my inventory, so I was having to cancel a lot. So he admitted what the problem was, but that's really what the story was. eBay didn't do anything wrong. eBay was like,
he was negligent.
You're not running your store right, so we're going to give you a timeout.
Right, exactly.
And that's how, and I'm glad. It
should be like that. Okay, last phone call for the week.
Hey guys, I just wanted to call and tell you I'm fairly new to selling on eBay. Not new to eBay itself. I've been buying stuff for years. But for some supplemental income, we decided to start selling some stuff. And we started off selling shirts and things. We've only been doing this for a little over a month. And I've been watching a lot of videos on YouTube. I love your videos that you have on there. So there was a couple of guys I saw who were selling coffee mugs and claiming that they can make good money with coffee mugs. And I kind of scoffed that and thought that was a little ridiculous, and started selling some shirts and pants and stuff. Well, one day we were at Salvation Army. This was only a couple of weeks ago. My wife was trying on some jeans, and I was standing back near the kind of, the tchotchke area towards the back of the store, and I eyeballed a small coffee cup. And what struck my eye with this is it was a little bit smaller than what you'd consider a regular sized coffee cup for, an American coffee cup. And also it had some cartoon characters on it that I was not familiar with. So I picked it up because I just looked interesting. I looked at the bottom, and it had a maker's mark of Arabia, Finland on it, and it said it was from, I believe, 1996. So it was interesting. It was unusual. I picked it up on a whim. It was on sale. It was 99 cents. It was on sale. I paid 64 cents for the coffee cup. And lo and behold, it's a limited edition coffee cup from this company, Arabia, Finland. The name of the cup was Raha Peace, and it's a rare coffee cup. And I actually just sold it, and I got $250 for the coffee cup. Plus they paid shipping. It went over to Norway. Actually, I had to go international with this one because it's a company outside the USA. But it changed my way of thinking, and now we look at all kinds of things, and we're looking at porcelain, and I just picked up a tile. They're a little more interesting, obviously, than clothes, and money can be made. And I'm not saying I'm going to find one like that every day or every month or every year, but there are deals to be found. So just something I thought people might be interested to hear. Thanks a lot for everything you're doing. Bye.
This story is almost like what happened to us the other day, where we're like, let's buy this pottery. We don't know if it's crap or not. It's $1 a piece. We'll take a chance.
And then
amazing.
And these are like whatever home run stories, or like the kind of, I call it the Las Vegas jackpot stories.
Yeah.
They happen every so often, but if you scavenge enough, they happen more often than you would think.
Right.
There's no way to ever predict it.
Yeah.
But if you're out there, we live in this rich country.
Yeah.
This stuff is out there. I like the story because, he starts off talking about him and his wife are just kind of starting this.
Right.
And they've been focusing mainly on clothes because,
clothes are
like
easy
he says,
to find.
You go to Goodwill, there's lots of clothes, it's easy to buy.
You know what clothes you like, so someone else is going to like them.
So it's an easy entry point.
Easy entry, yeah.
So it's fun to hear him say, but I took a chance.
Yeah.
And it paid off.
A 99-cent chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it paid off.
60-cent chance.
And that's what we always say. I mean, get the bread and butter stuff. If clothes is what excites you, sell clothes. But don't turn your brain off to all the other things around you.
Which we did for a long time.
Yeah.
We did that for a long time.
I always say it, and I can clearly see it in my mind right now. I'm going to a flea market.
Yep.
And I'm walking, like I'm fast walking through it because I'm just focused on shoes and wool coats. Like that was our thing for about a year. That's all we sold. And so I would walk through tables and tables of stuff, and I would just think, there's
nothing here.
There's nothing here. There's no shoes. Like those shoes are junky. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I think about it now.
What did you miss?
We go to the same flea markets now, and I just see table after table of treasure, you know? And I just think of all the things we bought for $1 and sold, and I just,
Yeah, it's incredible. But you have to be willing to do it. I mean, that's the thing is, like, I remember thinking about glassware in China and just being like, never. I don't want to pack it. I don't want to research it.
I don't care about it.
And now, like, I'm looking at the bookshelf in front of me and it is packed full of glassware in China. Yeah. Like, but it's stuff that I think is cool. I'm like, there's like some vintage beer steins. Like, I love that.
Because I think part of it is we've learned, instead of just being like, oh, that's just a bunch of junk. We've learned to research and to read, and you learn about why it is cool.
Right.
I personally don't need it to collect it in my house.
I don't want it.
But I can appreciate why other people appreciate it,
Like, I can see into other people's, like, heads as to why they would do it.
Right.
So...
and so
that's a good perspective.
And then as a trash shelf, as a good trash shelf, then I know how to find those things that people appreciate. And then put it into their lives.
Exactly. And you look like an elf today because you're wearing a bright red Christmassy sweater.
That's right.
So it might be one of our longest podcasts. This is almost clocking in at 2 hours.
Are you serious?
Yeah, the second half we've recorded is 2 hours.
So people said last week we kind of did a long one. They were like, we really like the long podcast.
Here we go.
Because I guess if you're taking photos, you're taking photos for more than an hour. So
yeah,
I don't know. We're going to try this out.
Just see.
Ryan, if you can see if this is too long to edit, but
that's okay.
But we had a lot to talk about. And,
yeah. Had a lot of calls, so that was good.
Hopefully it was interesting.
Yep.
So please, if you are new to us, you can subscribe at scavengerlife.com. You can subscribe through email or through iTunes.
Or through YouTube.
Yep. And we put this out every Sunday night, Monday morning.
Yep.
We also try and put out a video of our what's sold, so you can actually see some of the things we've talked about. That's normally Wednesday. And then sometimes we'll do an interview with a seller too, and that would normally be Friday, but that's not every Friday.
Yeah.
But you can also, we have a pretty fun community where we talk about a lot of this stuff.
So jump in on the comments if you haven't already.
Yeah,
we like to talk to people. Yeah.
Okay, great.
This podcast is ending in 3, 2, 1.
Bye.